Good morning, everyone. I like to live, spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. Yummo. Hey, LaRock, what's up? It's been a minute, right? It's been a long time since I've been on here, about maybe 3 weeks. Probably the longest break I've ever taken in 4 years. And for good reasons, because a lot has been coming up. And I think everybody has sort of gone through this whirlwind of craziness. Yeah, it's been a crazy whirlwind, right? The world and living in this world is not an easy thing to do. And for anybody, right? It's not just for me, but anybody, right? And there's suffering, and everybody's going through this craziness, and part of that craziness is the way the structures are designed specifically, right? And recently taking these classes on diversity and talking about capitalism, of course, and the capitalists, but also looking at who benefits from that particular process and who's not. The reality is most people are not. Let's just say about 99% of the population, probably more than that, 99.999% of the population, especially here in America, and it's getting worse, right? So, um, trying to figure out what that means. We see a ton of things happening in the world today, right? Like prices are actually going up immensely, almost exponentially feels like. And what's happening? Why is this happening? And how do we make sense of it? And that's really kind of the space that I've been in. How much of a difference am I actually making? How much of a difference or impact do I actually make? And am I providing support the way support is needed? And finding out, how do I support individuals? The reality is you want to throw in the towel and give up and say, you know what? This is bullshit. I'm just over it. I'm tired of even trying. Why? Because nothing seems to change, right? The human condition seems to just continue, but then again, there's those people like me who have hope and carry that hope in my heart that things can change. Couple of new things I've uncovered that sort of piss me off. Like for instance, I've been on these climate series seminars with people from around the world leaders that are talking about how do we create a green society. And their answer to this is to start to drill into the ocean and mine minerals from the ocean, screwing up ecosystems in the ocean. I don't even know if people know this. I didn't even know there was a seabed authority. Do you guys know that? I didn't even know that, but there is. And the seabed authority is all the world leaders agree not to mess with the oceans. And they have that agreement. And guess what? Now, um, now I don't know what that's saying. Sorry. Now they're thinking about doing this, and I'm like, man, when does it stop? They're talking about who's gonna make money. I mean, these are people, right? The series that I'm on is through Gilman, and if you guys don't know what the Gilman is, I was a Gilman scholar. And basically Gilman is about study abroad. And it's open to this, it's open to the public. It is. I don't know how many people have actually heard of it. And they're talking about policy, right? So it's all from a political standpoint, but we have these doctors. We even had a lady who was on the boat come to us live on Zoom to talk about how they are looking at marine life and looking at all these things, and how it's the only way for us to survive is to do this green economy. And we don't know what the results are going to be if we start doing that. Now I start to think, is it just enough? Is it too much? I mean, what do I do? Do I get on here and continue to support, audience of 5, which is beautiful. Trust me, it only takes one person to really open up and start to make a shift. But, what impact am I actually making? I don't know. And I think that I was in reflection of that, and also in reflection of what am I doing in my life? How am I um, applying this to my life, to help humanity become a better person. Now that we're in post COVID era and things are starting to shift and change, we start to see this rebirth, this newfound understanding of life and how we can engage it, right? And so it's trying to figure out how, what is it that we do, how do we unite as a human race, right, come together as brothers and sisters and redesign what's there, which is what I've been talking about for so long. Like, have we gone too far? Is are people thinking about it? Like, something's gonna break, something's got to give, right? We talk about Rome, right? When in Rome, but what happened in Rome? Well, every great empire has fallen. But when is this empire going to fall? It's going to break and a new system is going to arise. But the new system is going to be determined by who? That's the question. So we are the ones. That's what I keep trying to get. And maybe some of my podcasts are a little bit more esoteric, maybe, not so some people are like, you got to talk a little bit more like to the masses or whatnot. And maybe I don't, but I don't know how much more I can say. We've got to wake up, we've got to do it together, and it's not so easy, trust me, because I have tried to collaborate with so many people in my program. It's getting people together to who understand what's going on, to reconstruct and recreate. Well, if we're not reconstructing and recreating, guess who is? Other people. And then they dictate what should happen, and then we have to follow that without ever giving our voice or our word, without ever actually having a say in what gets to happen, because they sweep us from under the rug is what they do. Hey, GP man. And they don't give us the opportunity. So we have to be on top of it. We are the ones who get to recreate what we get to see next. Otherwise, we have people like the capitalists continue to do and take precious resources and continue to screw up environments for us and for other creatures. And that's really what it is. They don't really care at the end of the day. And what does that end up for us? Well, we end up like whatever, bitching and complaining about it without ever really doing something about it. We have to be able to understand what is happening, what is going on in the world. Now, part of that is your internal world. You know me, I'm all about the internal. If you know thyself, if you understand who you are, you can have an impact on the external world. You can have an impact. And part of it is doing stuff like this, getting on podcasts. I mean, honestly, I think about all the effort and time that I have put into these podcasts. And I wonder if it's done an inkling of shifting or change in anybody's life enough to make a difference. And I don't know. I just don't know the results of that, right? I can't assess that, right? I'm not trying to, I suppose I could if I was like trying to monetize it. Hey man, Kay. So what do we get to do, and what's happening? Well, we're in post COVID, and I can tell you that I've been going through this whirlwind of crazy and trying to understand who I am. I've gone through a death and a rebirth in this time. And that death and rebirth literally, okay, literally has shifted my consciousness, has expanded my consciousness. And I'm reading a couple of books. You guys already know that I'm going to give you books or, ideas of what books you can read. Spiritual Activism 1, I'm taking a diversity and human development class. The human development is about human consciousness and development of consciousness, which is pretty awesome. It is a new way to look at the world. Now, I do disagree with some of the new theories that are coming out, and this is why it is important for individuals like you to sort of understand what is the new paradigm. What is the new way? How are they trying to reconstruct this new world? Because I'll be honest with you, it's going to crash. It's going to. Nothing stays the same ever. We know this. Change is a constant, right? And that's why this is alchemy, because transformation, change is not an easy thing to do. It's very uncomfortable. It puts a lot of people, right? They're already paralyzed. They're like, what do I do? I don't want to do this. And when COVID happened, nobody wanted to change. Everybody was freaking out. Well, now we're in the post COVID era where people are starting to go like, oh, I'm birthing something new. Now people have a big recognition about what time is. We know that the construct of time doesn't need to be the Ford model, right? 9 to 5 job. People don't want to do that anymore. They're looking for new ways around that. They're sick of the old hustle bustle, work hard and you'll get what you want, knowing that that's not even true. That was just a lie made up, right? Just to get us to what? Slave labor, continue to work harder so that what? They get richer. There was a video I watched by this in my class, actually, for diversity. If you guys are interested, email me at spiritandbrew@gmail.com. I'll send it to you. And it was a capitalist. And he got up there and he talked about how, right, how capitalists are taking over the world. And the thing that really pissed me off about this guy, right, is that he's over there trying to act like he's trying to save us. And I'm like, "You're not trying to save us, first of all. You're just the guy who gets to be the spokesperson, and feed us, spoon feed us crap that tells us that, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. I'm coming up with better ways. I'm talking to my buddies to change their ways." No, you're not. You're just what you're doing is you're reshaping it, but it's the same shit. So, we've gotta be able to say no and call the bullshit card on people, right? We have to be the ones who are like, "Nah, that's not," but we have to understand how things work, how things operate in order to do that. So you guys understand how a capitalist society works. They don't give a shit about people. In fact, corporations were designed for that. Let's put the liability into something that is unreal, right? It's a corp, it's dead. You guys look at language as well, right? The corporations are dead. Let's blame this dead entity to take liability. What does that mean? That means that I don't have to be responsible if I screw things up, right? We know this. You guys know this. But what do we do? Well, we have to speak up, call the bullshit card on people. If I was in the room with that guy, I'd be like, "You're full of shit." That's what I would tell him. And he probably wouldn't like me, and I'm not liked, trust me, by a lot of people, I'm not liked, and that's okay. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to call people out because why? Because if we don't, our species doesn't survive. And I'm in this state of mind that, do I care? Do we deserve to continue on as a human race? Because we're just screwing it up. Well, who is? Who is the they? Well, the capitalists. That's who the they is, okay, for me, in my opinion. And right now, the guy talked about how capitalists do what they do. And he was acting as though he has somehow had this profound epiphany and that he is now trying to change things. I think what he's doing is he's afraid that we're all waking up, right? And that we don't want to be under this particular system. And he's trying to figure out how he's going to continue to do what he needs to do. But this talk rhetoric, right? His rhetoric and his language, coming up with something so beautiful and saying it so eloquently that people say, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." Because at the end of this podcast or this TED Talks, the lady goes, "Okay," and I love her. She was very bold. She tells him, "Well, you know, since you see this as an issue and you have so much money, why don't you just share it with everybody?" You should have seen his face. That just told you right there that he's full of shit, right? He just was like, he didn't know what to say. It wasn't like, "Yeah, let me do that." He goes, "Oh, no, no. I have a better way. My way is to use that money to get my friends to change their mind." I mean, I wanted to slap him because I'm like, "That's the dumbest answer ever. Sorry. I'm being very forthright right now." It's just like, bleh, but vomit on it. But I did. I'm like, "You are just full of shit." I just wanted to call the bullshit card, right? I'm not gonna harm this person. I love the person anyway, but what an idiot, right? Sorry, all my judgments are coming out. You can see that, I hear you, man. I'm working now, 2 hours left. Oh, are you working? We are all messing it up. I'm not gonna say the effort, but yeah, we are. Um, and the thing is how do we undo this? Well, we got to speak up. Like literally got to speak up. We have to, or we've got to understand how to redesign or give our 2 cents about what we think should happen. Because right now, their great way to fix everything that they're coming up with, and God, I hope it doesn't happen, is to start mining under the seabed, right? That's what they want to do. They want to go, and do we have a say in this? Right? Yes, and it is spirit. But here's the deal, we have to say something. We have to, or not. It's up to you, right? Do we have a say, but we don't do much? We do have a say, but we don't do much. That's right. It's words are empty, right? But we do have an opportunity to speak our voice. And I think that's a lot of it. It's like, well, I don't really have a voice. Yeah, you do. You have a voice. And you have, and even if no one hears it, because I get on here and trust me, sometimes no one hears it, I still do it because I have a voice. And I, at least I can go down saying, "Hey, I tried." I tried. I tried and I did it, and it, wherever it went, it went. I did the best that I could, right? I did everything that I possibly could in my realm of resources to support, to help guide, to support everybody in saying, "Hey, come on, let's do this together." Not an easy task, right? If you think about the past ages where we've seen this happen, it's not the first time this has happened in humanity, right? We keep repeating it. I don't think we ever learn. I think few people learn. I think what happens is part of society start to awaken to this, right? And they start to remember who they are, and they start to reconnect to their divine self, right? Their spirit, all that kind of stuff. And they start to say, "Oh," and they awaken. And you have these people who are aware of what's going on, and perhaps they transcend. Perhaps this is their last time on this planet. But you have those who do not, and they don't care, and they just keep going. But for those that do, we have the opportunity to speak our voice. Will somebody hear? I don't know. Who knows? These videos that I do right now, you guys are here, right? But these videos can support someone future generations. They might start seeing these videos and going, "Oh, okay, this, that, the other." And then it might ignite them to do the same in their generation, right? But if we don't do it, if we don't leave that legacy behind, are we doing our job? Are we doing what really we're being called forth to do? I don't know. And it's a really hard thing. And so that's why I've been silent for a while, because I'm really reflecting on the bigger issue. It feels like a mountain that's hard to move, right? Like, how do we, not even me, but how do we move this mountain together? How do we unite and do what we need to do? Are you guys living that deep, 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 purposeful life that's going to help to shift the next generation, or to remind them that they matter, to remind them that they are enough? Because I don't know what's coming in next. Nobody does, really. There's agendas, trust me. These people have agendas by people, I mean, capitalists. I'm just going to call it capitalists, okay? We're just going to say it that way. That they have an agenda. They already know, they already have a way that they want to shape the world. They understand what they want to do. That doesn't mean it has to be that way. There's a tiny percent of people who are actually benefiting from that particular gain. And I can tell you why, because the majority of the population is not that extreme. I mean, I hate to say it, but it takes someone who's nearly sociopathic or psychopathic. It has to. How could you be okay with destroying life systems and ecosystems internally? How could you be okay with that? And you'd have to be, something mentally has to say, "I don't give a crap about life." That literally deforestation, all these things that they do, where they're just killing off things, they would have to do that. And I think that most of the population is like, "No." Yeah, but it's happened many times. It has. It absolutely has. And so what are we here for? What is our purpose? Why? Which is where I'm at, right? You get to that point where you're like, it's almost like where Jesus Christ, like, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." You just gotta kind of just say, "I don't even know anymore." But of course, because I am who I am, and I would feel out of integrity if I didn't get on here and do my part. And that's what I do. I come on here and I at least try to give that inkling of support and hope that you matter, your voice matters, and we need people to actually speak up and speak out. Hey, Gavin. I didn't even see you on here. Hey, to speak out. Hey, Cookie. Say Cookie Monster. I don't know. But speak out and say your piece, say your word, right? That's I mean, however you do that. I know that there's social media, everybody's attention, right? How do you grab the attention of individuals? People are watching still nonsense stuff. I don't know. I'm like, I can't even handle the nonsense stuff. I just don't even watch it because it's what is it doing? It's distracting, right? I heard capitalism had to tune in. I heard capitalism had to tune in. Oh yeah, capitalism, man. I'm telling you because because I've been doing a lot of reflecting and the reflection too of where who am I in this situation, right? Because I can say I can point fingers and this and that and the other, but I'm part of the system too. And I don't know how to live outside it. And those are the responsibilities that I've got to take for myself. How? What how do we create something? I don't know. I can't give that answer. I don't know. It's going to take a bunch of us to understand how to do that, but we've got to do it together. And I've said that before. I think that's a lot of what I was saying before. I kind of went silent for a couple of weeks. And but I had a friend and we've been talking for my courses, right? And we're talking about how do we collaborate with this new way, this new understanding. Hello, DMAC. And how do we come together to unite? And I've tried to do it, but it's really difficult. I think we're so very programmed in this other system. Humans are the creator of earth. Humans aren't the yeah, that's correct, the rock. Thank you. Humans are not the creator of earth. And I think that because we think we are, we think we have this right. Well, the reason, and here's the biggest, this is what I say, this statement right here is the reason I believe that we have ended up so disconnected. We have dominion over the earth. That's bullshit. I call bullshit card on that. We do not. Okay. That way of thinking is a capitalist mind. I have dominion. I can do what I want. I can eat all the creatures of the earth and I can take down all the forests of the earth because I have dominion. No, there's a great responsibility that comes with that. And we have to be very careful with the language we use because what we do when we start to create this language is we create these ideas and perspectives around that and they have consequences. So I am even refining what I see and how I see the world, right? I'm not going to stay the same over and over and over again. And please, Gavin, if you have something to say about capitalism, please write it in there. You're more than welcome. But, right? So I'm not going to stay the same. In fact, my viewpoints are constantly shifting and changing. And this is how consciousness shifts and change. And this is how paradigms shift and change. And this is how we end up with a new narrative, a new story, is that we allow these new ideas to come in, right? I'm constantly re-looking at things and reshaping. And sometimes what I thought to be true is not true. Sometimes what I thought to be real is not real. We have to be able to open up our minds to understand that if we're living in that rigid way of life, right? We tend to live into that reality. And sometimes that reality is detrimental to us. So that yes, illusions and those illusions can screw us up big time. Trust me. But right now we're living under the illusion of a capitalist society. We just are. And that's the truth. And they don't give two shits. And even in countries where we say, well, they're socialists, they're this, they're that, they're other, trust me, they're disguised as capitalists. The ones at the top are benefiting, I guarantee. And I guarantee they're negotiating with other capitalists to monetize for what? I don't even know what, so that they can have fancy what? Cars and houses? Like they have 50 houses that no one lives in. Who does that? Why? I don't even understand that mindset. I was just talking to my friend the other day. We have ancient ruins that are huge, megalithic, beautiful places, and no one's occupying them. In fact, we put them on display as a museum. Well, they're probably functioning, and we could probably live in them. So what are we doing? I don't know. Humans are interesting. I can tell you that. It's very interesting to be a human and almost hard to be a human at times because just the things we do, right? And I put myself in that because I'm human. So together we do this, right? And together we can figure out how to reconstruct, redesign, and we have a voice and you have a voice and you've got to speak out and you've got to say call the bullshit card. One thing, and I'll end with this, that I'm reading right now, um is in the human development, and I can't remember the name of the book, but I know it's by Ken Wilber, and he does, oh, it's Integral Psychology is the name of the book. Integral Psychology. But what he talks about is lines, right? He talks about lines and he talks about waves. But here's the deal. If we're talking about integration and if we're talking about living systems or we're talking about a new paradigm, we need to shift the language and the symbols. That is critical because we cannot speak about integral psychology without talking about the symbolism that actually is working within the construct of it. So, literally, when we look at integral psychology, they still use something that really bothers me. And I think I want to write a paper is they use levels, right? They call it the holarchy. And they say that there's this holarchy and that there's these levels of consciousness. And I don't know that I would call them levels. Okay. I think I would call it expansion and contraction in consciousness rather than levels. Okay. So that right there is a big, well, that can make a difference. And I don't think people understand that. Just the tweak in language can make a difference on how people perceive it and how it's taught, and then how it actually gets implemented in society. And the result, there are consequences to everything that we do. So while we're teaching people this new paradigm, integral paradigm, right? Then we would say, oh, this is how the world is when we integrate things rather than postmodern or modernism, right? Or postmodernism when we're looking at a different paradigm and how do we work with it? Well, I don't agree. And Ken Wilber probably say, girl, you don't know anything because that guy was quote unquote a genius and something, something, something and a prodigy and blah, blah, blah. And I would say, I don't care because literally when you talk about levels, you ignite an egocentric way. You ignite a hierarchy of us versus them. It's still that us versus them, black white, which we see in postmodern modernism, the duality where there's not really an integration. So I would say a contraction and expansion of consciousness. I wouldn't call it levels. I wouldn't say I'm on a higher level of consciousness. I'd say my consciousness has expanded, therefore giving me more space to see the whole picture. My consciousness is contracted. There's a different, and he has it against these lines. So, and waves, right, of possibility. And he's trying to put it into a graph and say, here's the system. But most people will say, well, it's levels. And I don't say it's levels. I say it's expansions or contractions. Now, I'm not saying that levels don't exist. I just don't believe they exist in consciousness. Okay. Levels can exist in maybe chakra systems where we move through the levels of the chakras, something like that, because we can always go down a level or up a level or whatever. But consciousness, I don't agree. So those are things that we need to do. We need to be able to see through that and then give our opinion as to why. Well, why? Why don't I agree with that? If it's a capitalist conversation or if it's a conversation about the way life is happening, well, why? Why don't you agree? What do you think would be in its place and why? What are the consequences if we shift that mindset into something different? Okay. I've been in Mexico for 20 days now. If you think US politics and business are bad, nope. Other countries have no hope. Haven't seen this much death since being in Iraq. Yeah, how sad, I know. And you're right. We do have a privilege being American. Part of my human development, no, part of my diversity class about privilege, right? And it's talking about privilege. And we have privileges that we don't understand. So yes, there is sort of this privilege that we carry as Americans because why? Well, because our system is set up a little bit different than most. And I think the right to bear arms could be part of that. Because if the armies and stuff started to, there would be full on, I think, warfare of people, people with their guns, and you try to come on their territory, they'll shoot you. Like it's, and I don't think that other countries have that um, system set up still. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, not the whole reason, right? But I think the right to bear arms is a big one. And you're right, there's no hope in terms of those systems yet. There's always hope, but right now you can't see the hope because we don't know what that looks like. Eventually things change. They don't always stay the same. So those uncomfortable situations that other countries are living in won't always be that way. Tables will turn eventually, and who knows what'll come out of it. I don't know. But I do know that there's always suffering, right? So we do have a privilege, and I think that's something we need to recognize. Um, and thank you for bringing that up. So I have the privilege of voice. I have the privilege of getting on here and speaking, and that's what I'm gonna do. So you guys, of course, will see me tomorrow. Also Wednesday, I'm gonna have a friend come on. She's gonna do a reading. Um, she does oracle cards, and she'll do a reading, and have her on here. And I think it'll be awesome to have talk to her. She's part of my program. Uh, really wanting to have these conversations. If you guys are feeling so called to call in and give some voice to this, you guys are more than welcome, even though some people have gone off or whatever. But you guys are always welcome to give your voice as well. It matters. And we have to unite together. And that's just it. End of story. And if we don't, well, they're uniting together and they're going to tell us what is going to happen next, and then what we're just going to follow. I don't think that's the right way to do it. Um, but if people don't start to chime in, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to say, hey, you didn't come up with solutions. We did. And this is the solution, and you're just going to follow what we say. And if you don't, then, whatever. Society pegs you as a jackass, or, you have all these things against you. But you have time. So start to give your voice, okay? And if you ever want to call in here, you guys are more than welcome. I'm going to continue. I know I was reading the Emerald Tablet, Alchemy for Personal Transformation, and sort of stopped that a little bit because there's been some new developments, and me understanding what's probably most important. Okay, so there you have it. I love you guys so, 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 so much. Have the most magnificent, marvelous, miraculous, magnetic, magical, mystical, mm, money making. No, that's capitalism. Monumentous day ever. And of course, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.